Okay, so I wanted to talk about narcissism, and the reason why is odd. The more I learned about narcissism, not necessarily narcissistic personality disorder, but narcissistic traits, I realized that the prevalence of this is outrageous, which led me to think, where is this narcissism coming from? And the fact of the matter is, it's coming from a society that basically supports narcissistic, self-absorbed behavior. But where did that come from? It came from two places. Now, a lot of people know I'm a big fan of Ayn Rand. I've long said Ayn Rand is my favorite philosopher, although I agree mostly with Ragnar Redbeard. Ayn Rand is my favorite philosopher. Not because I agree with her, but because her philosophy to me is very interesting, and she makes very good arguments for things I don't agree with. That's the mistake a lot of people make with philosophy, is they like to think that because they read something, that makes them an expert on it and they understand it. Just because you read something does not mean you understand it. Understanding it, especially with philosophy, requires thinking about it. But Ayn Rand started the self-esteem movement, and people might not know that because self-esteem is such a common word, especially in therapeutic circles and things like that. When I look at philosophical models, I'm looking at how a psychologist looks at therapeutic models. I actually think Ayn Rand's objectivism is more helpful than cognitive behavioral therapy. Now, remind you, I am not a medical or mental health practitioner. This is not medical or mental health advice, but I think people could, if they try to understand Ayn Rand's philosophy of objectivism, could get more help at understanding reality on reality's terms than a person could with cognitive behavioral therapy. Now, barring a mental health issue that has a medical root, that's one of the problems I brought up that I had with the PTSD, is for whatever reason, I have symptoms that are beyond the reach of therapy. Now, that being said, let's get into Ayn Rand and the cult of self-esteem. Now, when she started this self-esteem movement, it was not well accepted, because the world had been so thoroughly impregnated with this Kantian mindset of the most good for the most people at the expense of the individual. Okay, but that did not go away. What happened is Randian objectivism merged with Kantian utilitarianism and created this abomination whereby people are told you can be anything you want to be. It doesn't matter how stupid you are, how smart you are, how whatever. It doesn't matter. And this has led to things like severe body dysmorphic issues, severe inabilities to understand one's shortcomings intellectually or athletically or otherwise, which leads to this creation of the narcissistic other, the ability to create this false personality to protect oneself from reality. And this is actually supported by society. Now, I'm not going to get too into this, but for example, when I used to have a group dealing, a mental health group dealing with health, physical health, through cultivating it through diet and exercise, a lot of the people would regurgitate the nonsense their therapists would say, which is crap like, oh, well, I'm happy with who I am and I don't want to lose weight, and you can be healthy at any size, and this is this mindset that has been cultivated by the modern society, and it doesn't stop at body dysmorphic disorder, or cultivating body dysmorphic disorder, which leads to this false sense of self. Meaning, these people are not happy with who they are as fat people. So they make this false narcissistic fat person up with, I can be beautiful. And you see this, these fat influencers where they show themselves and I'm beautiful even though I'm 600 pounds, you know, that type of stuff. But also with what we're seeing now is transsexuality or transgenderism. And this is not a cut to transgendered individuals. I have a friend that is transgendered that supports transgenderism. Okay, I actually is one of the few people I've continued talking with off of Facebook. And that's because I respect this person as an intellectual and as a person. But the fact of the matter is, this self-esteem cult will tell people you can be anything you want to be and nobody can tell you otherwise. Now, again, this is not an attack on transgendered people or anything like that, but what happens with gender dysphoria is people truly believe that they are the opposite gender or sex, but gender and sex used to mean the same thing. And then they believe that these operations will liberate them and allow them to be who they, quote, really are. But that's not who they really are, because who they are is not that. That's why they need help to objectively understand reality on reality's terms. A la objectivism. So my point is that, and I made this comment back years ago when I was going to school for criminal justice, when my teacher was blabbering on and on about how great transgender surgery is. Now, this teacher was allegedly a psychiatric social worker. I don't think she really was, though. She's a kook. But the thing was, I don't think she had a license. The thing is, when I asked her, I said, you don't like anorexic people. Typical fat pig that thinks that everybody that's, you know, a normal body mass index is anorexic. I said, you don't like anorexic people. You think anorexia is horrible. These people need to be treated. They need to become plump and blah, 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 blah. And I said, what's the difference between giving somebody a transgender operation, a gender reassignment surgery, and giving an anorexic person that's under a body mass index, under the recommended body mass index, liposuction? She got very angry and I got reprimanded for that remark. But my point is there is no difference. And I feel the same way about these gastric bypass surgeries. I believe it's unnecessary surgery because people will say, well, these fat people can't lose weight any other way. What does gastric bypass do? A gastric bypass surgery, remind you, I'm not a medical doctor. Got to point that out. And I'm not a mental health practitioner. I'm pointing that out again. A gastric bypass surgery controls the amount of food your stomach can hold. It also messes up the way that your body processes B vitamins and doesn't allow your body to absorb necessary amounts of B vitamins from food. So you need a B12 shot after getting this. And I personally know people that have had gastric bypass surgery that have not done well because they still eat and they stretch out the new stomach, you know, the smaller stomach. And it doesn't do no good. And now they need that B12 shot, and if they don't get it, they get sick. So my point is that this cult of self-esteem mixed with this cult of the greatest good for the greatest amount of people has caused a social mentality in which people are encouraged to conform to this idea that anything goes unless you're judgmental of people that aren't seeing things according to the way reality is. So if it's actually backfired in a way, and it's made objectivism and objectivity a crime almost, a thought crime. You're not allowed to think objectively. And it's kind of interesting because Ayn Rand would be furious if she saw this. Although I do think Ayn Rand would support things like transgenderism and homosexuality and things like, because she did, according to objectivism. There's one of the many things I disagree with her on. My point is that if she saw the abuse of her certain aspects of her philosophy combined with Kantianism, she would not be happy. And that's all for this video. It was just a quick rambling. I'm going to leave links in the description to various things. Please feel free to follow the links, and please understand, I'm not a mental health or medical practitioner. Nothing in this video is medical or mental health advice.